My name is Robby Jones and I'm doing this presentation on my mother. A little background information on my mother. She is Hispanic from her father's side. So my grandfather is Hispanic and my grandmother is not Hispanic. My grandfather moved to California when he was around 2, 3. My mom doesn't have too much information on him. We don't really know him that well. He wasn't in her life, so this is just from what she remembers. He moved to California from Mexico with his family when he was about 3, then they moved to North Carolina. That's where my mother and my uncle were born. My uncle Joaquin is 2 years older than my mother. So they moved to California about 2 weeks after my mother was born. And then when my mother was around 2 or 3, that was the last time she seen my grandfather for many years. He was in my uncle's life. He wasn't really in my mom's life. We're not really too sure why or what caused that, but he was not around. So he came from Mexico when he was about 3, and he was bilingual, so he spoke both. But getting back to my mother, so she moved to Livermore, and she didn't really have any issues or problems when she was younger. The only issues was my grandmother being the full-time mother too, which was hard. She didn't have any education. She didn't graduate high school, so she was raising two children until my auntie came along. But that was way down the line. That was like 10 years later. So she came along, but my mom struggled growing up financially. My uncle played the father role to my mother, so he played the majority of the father role, which is good for her. She needed that. So like I said, she didn't really encounter too many conflicts adapting to US culture, more just a financial way through the young age. I couldn't really say that she's unique from an immigration standpoint. She's just unique from the way she grew up, not having a father. That's rough. So for my uncle to step in, that was huge for her. And with this presentation, so I went to the 50 questions, and I took about the first 15 of them and decided to ask my mom a lot of them. So I never really asked my mom too much about her young life, so this project was actually kind of good for me. So I asked her a lot, like, the main ones was, what did she do when she was a kid? Like, what did you do? Like, what did you do for fun? She actually played soccer in the in-house leagues for a long time, and that's actually cool, because my mom and my dad actually played soccer in an adult league together for a long time, so I didn't know that she played soccer as a young girl growing up, but that was good. And I asked her, like, what are the type of things you do when you were bored around the house? It was just you and your brother or your sister. They actually played hide and seek a lot. They played in the house. Since my grandmother wasn't around as much, and I know back then the child laws are completely different and way more enforced, and her and her brother were at the house all the time, so he always cooked for her and cleaned up after her when she was younger. But they did play a lot of hide and seek in the house. I asked her what type of house she grew up into too. She grew up in a small house in Livermore, 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, very small. She shared a room with her brother for a long time, and then shared a room with her brother and her sister for a long time, until they all grew up. Like all kids, they all had chores, but luckily they got a $5 allowance every week that she told me that she took over to the gas station and bought all her favorite candies at the end of every week. My mom told us when we were younger she didn't want us to have it how she had it when she was younger. She didn't have it very well. She didn't have very much money. The clothes were raggedy. My grandmother couldn't pay for all the fun stuff they wanted to do, so she told us when we were younger that's what it was going to be. We're all always going to be spoiled pretty much, and we're going to go on all these trips and have so much fun, and that's what we did. My mom went out and did it when my parents were together. They're both very financially well. They still are today, separately, but they were very financially set together. My mom actually owns her own billing company that she's been running for 20 years. She bills all the local doctors and bills all their patients for them. So in that last picture, I have my uncle Joaquin on the far left with his family, and then myself, on the far right with my mother and my stepfather. I hope you guys all enjoyed my projects, and I'm looking forward to see everybody else's.